I'll read this out now if you don't mind. This is why I blame the Tory wets in charge for almost all the past 14 years for the Starmerite calamity that is about to befall Britain. He's good, Alistair Heath, actually. He writes some really good articles.
No.
It's the wets, so he calls them the Tory wets. I've only heard this recently about the wets, who jettisoned the free market economics, deregulation, tax cuts and supply-side reforms, who crippled the city, who increased immigration, who ignored the collapse of the community and family and the baby bust, who failed to fix the civil service, who refused to scrap the BBC licence fee, who had no interest in properly reforming the public sector, including the NHS, and who promoted even more cultish reverence for a failing system, who vetoed prison building and a real crackdown on crime, who embraced net zero and the neo-Blairite quangocracy, and who wanted to surrender to the woke stormtroopers. So that's quite an interesting summary.
He's spot on.
Yeah, it's an interesting summary of everything. So he's blaming the Tory wets, basically. He's saying there's been a faction in the Tories who've allowed this stuff to happen.
Yeah, this all started under Cameron. So Cameron wasn't a Conservative, Cameron was a Blairite. And because he became party leader, then Prime Minister, it then led to more people like him joining the Tory party and standing, and they became known as the Wets. I think Margaret Thatcher coined the term Wets.
Oh, did she?
I think so. She said once, which I thought was great, she said, when I leave public office, I'm going to set a company up and it's going to be called Rent a Spine. That was the biggest problem in cabinet, that no one had a spine.
So this concept then that there's been a faction in the Tories,
just that's why we're not
like Cameron, who basically every time the true Tories, if you like, tried to put through the will of the people, stopped it from happening.
You think about Cameron, he started off before he was Prime Minister with getting a sledge and huskies across the South Pole or something to talk about the green agenda. He then came up with hug a hoodie because it's not their fault they're criminal. We need to embrace them.
Yeah.
Then he introduced gay marriage.
Yeah.
All these things are all woke progressiveness.
Yeah.
And that's how the Tory party just carried on, because it attracted more people like that into the Tory party, into positions of power. And all this wokeness, it's all happened under 14 years.
Yeah.
And they may complain about we don't know what a woman is, but they've let all the public organisations get into this mess. They talk about immigration's a problem, but you opened the... This
Correct.
was... Boris Johnson got us out of Europe, then opened the borders up to the rest of the world. It's like nobody wanted any of this.
Yeah.
So the Tories are not Conservative and haven't been for a long time. And that's why we're in the mess we're in.
Yeah. And the idea that Farage has is that basically the Tories will be destroyed, and then what he wants to re-emerge from that is something that he's involved in. This is what we're hearing, but is true Tories. What we go back to the true Tories with the views and the appropriate practical views about life and everything we're doing at the moment. And they probably, I don't want to call myself a Tory here, but
it'll be interesting to see what happens to the Tory party, because they're going to get decimated, but we don't know who's going to keep their seats.
Yeah.
So if they go down to 100 seats or 200 seats, whatever, and they're still nearly all wets, the Tory party doesn't change.
Yeah. But is that likely to happen though? Because I would imagine the Tories that are going to keep the seats will be in the more, I don't want to use the phrase right wing, in the more kind of true Tory seats like Clacton-on-Sea or whatever. Do you know what I mean? Isn't it more likely the true Tories who are going to keep? Because if you're a wet Tory and you're against a Labour candidate, your voting group is more likely to vote for Labour, aren't they?
I think you'll find most Tory MPs are wet. There's not many Tories in there, many Conservatives in there. So I don't. But that'll be interesting to find out after the general election. What is the remaining Tory party MPs? What are they? There's going to be a civil war. Yeah. But if there's 150 wets and only 40 true Conservatives, then it's obvious who's going to win that civil war. Yeah. But if it's the other way round, then they could turn into a proper Conservative party, which then negates the need for Reform UK. Yeah. So we don't know how that's going to be. And when people ask, mass immigration, we need to leave the ECHR, European Court of Human Rights, why don't we leave it? It's because, and from what I've read in the papers, the majority of the ministers sat in the cabinet don't want to leave.
Oh, really?
That's why Sunak and all the others couldn't get us to leave, because the vast majority of the ministers in government don't want us to leave.
Yeah.
Did you like that video? I think you did. Hit the bell, give it a big thumbs up, comment, and don't forget I'm standing for election in Oldham East and Saddleworth. So please share this video, speak to your family and friends if you live in Greater Manchester, and if you live in Oldham East and Saddleworth, make sure you vote for me. Catch you soon.